Hey guys, welcome to a special edition of the On Season. Thanks for joining us this evening. We're excited about this episode, guys. You know we're live on X and on YouTube. Before we start, make sure you hit that little bell, help support the channel, and subscribe. Well, we told you we'll have draft prospect interviews, and we got our first one. We start out with a bang. Very excited about this player. He's a top 100 player for me. The more filmed I watch, the more filmed I like. Unbelievable pre-draft process. Great combine, great Senior Bowl week, excellent combine. Let me bring in my partner, Jason Sarni. I know you're excited about this interview and about this player.
Yeah, all of us here at Dolphins Nation, we love the offensive line. We want to see there be an investment in the trenches. And I think we all as a fan base love talking about the offensive line as a whole. So enough talking to me. Let's bring in our guest already.
Let's bring in the start of the show. That is offensive lineman from Sac State. That's Jackson Slater. Let's bring him on here. Jackson, how are you, buddy? Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So let's start here. How do you go from you grew up in Bellevue, Washington, right? How do you go from there to Sacramento State? Kind of what was the process like for you in that whole recruiting process?
Yeah, so just a under-recruited guy. Sac State ended up being my only full ride scholarship. So I had some like non-scholarship opportunities in the Ivy League and the Pioneer League, which are both non-scholarship leagues. Had a couple PWOs, and my only scholarship offers it was a D2 Central Washington. I had a partial offer to Eastern Washington, and then Sac State kind of came in a little late in the process, but they offered me a full ride, so made it a pretty easy choice. Getting school paid for and everything. So,
yeah, that's awesome. When they pay for it, that makes your choice a lot easier, right? All right. I was seeing your dad. He played for Western Washington, was it? Your dad played ball. Yeah. How kind of influential was he in your career up to this point? Kind of, did he coach you throughout your career, or?
Yeah. So I'd say more in my youth days he coached me. Wouldn't say he knows a ton about the technical parts of being an offensive lineman, but I think definitely did a really good job instilling just the good values of a offensive lineman and a football player, and me and my little brother just work hard, full effort, stuff like that, finish the play through the whistle, just little stuff like that he was always emphasizing for sure. So he's been a huge part of my journey, and I'm thankful to have him for sure.
Awesome.
Growing up, you were a multi-sport athlete, Jackson, baseball, basketball, track. Other than football, was football the first love, or was there another sport that you might have saw a professional path?
Yeah, I don't know if I saw a professional path, but I'd say baseball is probably my first love. Just was on a select baseball team with a bunch of my buddies that I, went to high school with and middle school and elementary school with. So just like a really, core group of guys, and we were a pretty solid squad as well. But I think slowly, I kind of just realized that I was best at football compared to the other sports, and that's where I wanted to put all my work into. I didn't want to spend springs or winters playing baseball and basketball, and I can be lifting and working on offensive line technique and stuff like that. So kind of my sophomore year of high school, decided to focus on football, and I think it was a good decision for me for sure.
Definitely a good decision. Absolutely. It looks like it brings me to a question that's like a technical football question. A lot of us here, covering the Dolphins, there's been cross training from tackle to guard, center to guard, and so on and so forth. What are the subtle differences from switching position? Is it so hard? We've heard a lot of funny little cliches on how difficult it is. Is it like a second baseman going to first, short to third? What is it almost like?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot harder than you would think. I'd say it's more like a catcher going to play outfield sometimes. I think it all depends on how many reps you've had at the different spots. So I try to be pretty consistent on taking reps at both guards and center, and I feel comfortable there. But even my college career, I got thrown out at tackle sometimes, and it definitely takes a second to kind of get used to just like little nuances and like footwork and hand placement and technique. Like it's like just a ton of little stuff that all adds up and makes it more awkward than wherever you've been playing your, position consistently. So it's definitely a lot harder than you would think. But I think my versatility is an asset for me. So I definitely stay, pretty consistent with doing as much as I can for sure.
Now, one of those games in college, I think it was San Jose State, you actually went to center in game. Like you were at left guard. Take us through that and the mental kind of, all right, reset. I'm a center for now.
Yeah. So at that point, in the season,
we're back.
We had we had a big injury at center. We had our starting center, Nate Mejia, who's I think at Stanford now, transferred out, but was a great player for us. And, he had an injury in fall camp. So our coaching staff was kind of debating on moving me to center or not. So they kind of, at that point, was kind of still like, maybe I'll move to center, maybe I'll stay at guard. So like they said, you know what, screw it, we'll do it in game as well, and we'll see what you can do in game. So I think I did well. I think I had a good 3 plays at center, and it was I think valuable for me getting just in game reps at that position. But I think I also did a lot for our offense at guard, just get on space, on power, the screen game and stuff. So I think ultimately it was probably the right decision to keep me at guard, but it definitely, moving into this next chapter gives me a lot of confidence in playing center for, how many reps I took last year at it for sure.
All right, so let's get on to your Sacramento State career. You had a tremendous career there, 3-time All-Big Sky, 2-time All-American. I was looking up, you had in 23, you only allowed 10 pressures, no sacks. 24, your season unfortunately got cut a little bit, but only 3 pressures, no sacks. How did your development when you walked out campus till now? Kind of who are the guys there that kind of helped you develop? Because you made tremendous strides every year there at Sac State.
Yeah, I mean, it was for sure a goal for me to just improve in, the offensive line stats every year for sure. So it's been nice to see a good trend for me there. But I think, our offensive line coach, Coach Richardson, and his 2 sons, Caden and Cooper, I think, played a huge role in my success as an offensive lineman. Just 3 guys that know a ton of football, and, Coach Richardson is a very successful coach, and both of his sons are going to go on and do great things in the coaching world as well. So I think they played a huge role. And then, I think a lot of credit to our strength and conditioning coaches. I had Coach Dietrich, who's at Stanford now, and Coach Morris, who just got the head job at South Dakota State. And both those guys just, knew how to do it the right way and, knew what to expect from their guys. And I think, just being able to buy into the process of everything, and, luckily having a lot of good people leading the way, I think definitely helped me improve and get better over my years here for sure.
Yeah, and if a fan who's watching the show wants to turn on one game at Sac State, say, I want to watch this game, what would that be? What game is that and why?
Yeah, I'd probably say Weber State from 2024.
Okay.
Kind of felt like I was on an island that game, even though playing at guard, just a lot of, protection sliding away from me, a ton of one-on-one reps that I think I strapped up pretty good. And then I think easily one of my most physical games in the run game as well, just displacing people on inside zone, quite a few clips getting out there on the screen game and power and leading the way. So I think it's probably one of the most complete games I've played for sure.
All right, and speaking of, I reached out to a scout friend of mine. I said, give me some info on Jackson, right? Give me something. He goes, make sure you mention he played with Scotabo, Cam Scotabo. Obviously, we know who that is. Your first 2 years you played with him, right? 21 and 22. He had that big almost 1,400-yard year at Sac State. You blocked for him. Did you know immediately when you saw him, okay, he's that dude? And now he's on a national spotlight. It's pretty cool. He's in the same draft as you. Kind of put your GM cap, give us a scouting report maybe of Scotabo and maybe his personality, what we don't know about him.
Yeah, I mean, I think just a super competitive guy, kind of jumped on the scene mid-season in 2021 and, wasn't getting a ton of carries at first. And then, slowly made his way into the rotation after, obviously a super powerful runner, super dynamic player. And then, in 2022, obviously, had a huge year for us, was, super fun blocking for him. Is, you always appreciate a running back that plays hard. And, the amount of things that he could do for our offense and our team was just super helpful. And I think, definitely led to us having a ton of success that year. As he was, even just as a check down, like, that's an easy 8 yards if we're checking it down to scat. So, just a super dynamic player, super competitive, loves the game. It was definitely an honor playing for him. And, I've definitely been super happy seeing the success he's been having the last few years. So.
Real quick, Jason, a follow up on that. How would he fit in the outside zone scheme when we're bringing it down here? Because they need a power back in Miami. How would he fit there? Cam, nobody better would know than somebody who blocked in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, for us, he was our go-to guy in any scheme for the most part. So, I think he does best when he gets downhill and can kind of bring the fight to, the defense, in my opinion. So, I think he's a guy that probably does well in, mid-zone, inside zone, where he can kind of find a hole and get going, get ahead of steam going. So I think he'd do well in any scheme, to be honest. So,
yeah.
So you were down at the Senior Bowl, and they say that's where the draft starts. The entire process really begins there. Take us through that experience and, being from a smaller school, what the mentality was going up against on the one-on-ones with the, the power conference guys.
Yeah, I mean, just a huge opportunity for me. All the thanks goes to Jim Nagy, who's at Oklahoma now, and it's cool to see his journey, and where he's gone, where he's taken it. So, huge thanks to him for giving me that invite. And, I think it's a huge week, more so for the small school guys, comparatively to the FBS guys, the SEC guys. I think just going there and showing that you can hang with all these top prospects and all these guys from bigger schools, and, just showing that the change of speed in the game isn't going to impact you. So, I think definitely took a second for me to kind of get confidence in who I am as a player, and, confidence going against, guys from higher levels of football, obviously. Because even for me, that was like the biggest question mark, is like, how's this week going to go? I had no doubt I was going to do stuff the right way, show up on time, do all that stuff. But then on the performance piece, still just like not facing that level of competition before, it was hard to say like how it was really going to go for me. And I think, slowly gained confidence on that day one. I think, probably midway through day one, I really felt like, yeah, I'm a guy here. I belong here. And, taking that into day two and day three, I think I just improved every day. And I think showed a lot of good stuff. So it was a huge opportunity for me, and I think I capitalized on it for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned the one-on-one drills. I know everybody kind of the O-line, D-line drills of the combine. Everybody has their eyes wide open for that. You did really well. You faced, Walter Nolan, Norman Lott, a bunch of guys. That class was strong. Who are some of the guys you faced that you said, okay, this guy's tough, like, or he's better than I thought, or who were some guys that gave you trouble there? Because not money, because you did really well.
Yeah, I think you said them. Walter Nolan and Omar Norman Lott, I think, were definitely some of the best competition there. But, I feel like up and down the board, the whole D-line group there was really strong. That was obviously something that they were pushing leading up to that week, was how good this D-line group was going to be. So, knew it was an opportunity for me to kind of show like, hey, this D-line group might be good, but, I feel like I'm pretty good at football too. So, I think it was a really fun week, a lot of competition. I think I learned a lot. But yeah, those two guys were definitely some of the tougher ones for sure.
Yeah. And go ahead, Jason.
No, I just wanted to know, was there any other position, any other player within the D-line as well that was like must-see TV that you were like, all right, this rep's coming up, I just got to watch this guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think the edge group was really strong. So, Shamar Stewart, Landon Jackson. I think Landon Jackson was on the other team, but those are a couple guys that I trained with actually, leading up to it. They're kind of in the same facility as I was. But, two dynamic players for sure that, probably going to hear their names called day one or maybe early day two. So, yeah.
Where did they have you? I know they wanted to get a look at center. Where did they have you predominantly line up? A lot of center mostly?
At the Senior Bowl was like more guard, I would say, but I definitely wanted to go in there and show I can, do whatever is asked of me. So, in the game, I ended up playing all three interior positions at one point or another. Definitely try to get them, throughout the practices as I could, but kind of just the way the roster was, ended up playing more guard than I thought I was going to, but. I think benefited me just as much as playing center. I think, going in there and being able to, pretty seamlessly transition between the three interior spots, I think, was really good to show and, I think helped me. So.
Yeah, just a last question on the Senior Bowl. I know the Dolphins assistant line coach Lamal Jean-Pierre was on the other team, the national team, right? You were on the American. Did you have any interactions with him down there, or not really, because you guys were on opposing teams?
Yeah, not a ton. They did like a team swap deal at the end of the week, but was more so just like, here's a sheet to fill out about yourself, kind of. So definitely more interaction with the O-line coaches on the American team for sure. So yeah.
Yeah. So moving on from the Senior Bowl, you got ready for, and congratulations for getting invited to the Combine. That's a big deal,
Thanks.
especially for a smaller school guy. And you showed your athleticism. You ran 5:01. You showed your strength. You benched 31 reps. I know you trained down with Expos, right? Were those the numbers you were looking at? Your target? What were your targets going in there? And did you meet them?
Yeah, just about. So bench was always 30 plus was the goal. So hit that and. Wanted to get a sub 540 for sure. Kind of pulled my hammy a little bit towards the end of the run. So didn't quite get there, but, I'm perfectly happy with a 5:01. I think it's still a great time for me. So, kind of get to check those boxes and move on to pro day for sure. So,
yeah. And I think you were the fourth ranked in total offensive line in the athletic ranking for the Combine. So that's tremendous. You showed your athleticism. You showed, of course, the strength that we see on tape, it kind of match, and that's what the Combine's for, right? Let's see what we're seeing on tape, let's match, and you certainly did that. Everybody, again, hit that subscribe button. Everybody's watching anywhere else but YouTube, come join us. Hit that little bell. It takes a second, and we have Jackson Slater, offensive lineman prospect from Sac State. All right, so continuing on the Combine, how was Expos? Like, who did you train with down there or over there in Expos?
Yeah, it was a really good experience. Just made it really easy. Had meals ready for you. 3 meals a day. The schedule wasn't anything crazy, but we definitely got in there and got our work done. So Nick Hill was the main speed trainer out there, and he does a lot of good work with NFL guys in the offseason as well as the pre-draft groups. Jamie Rodriguez was the main strength guy. As well as Coach Pauline Pompey, I think is her name. And both of them did a really good job as well. But, for the guys, the O-line group was kind of a smaller group down there, which is kind of why I was more drawn to that. I kind of liked a smaller group, kind of like getting a little bit more of a personal coaching, I would say. So, Charles Grant from William and Mary, Cooper Mays from Tennessee, AJ Cornelius from Oregon, and then Jared Christian Lichtenberg from Oregon State was kind of the O-line group down there. But, just a ton of good guys. And then Mike Pollock was our O-line coach down there, and I think he did a ton of good stuff with us. So really good group of guys. And, there's a ton of top prospects in the other positions as well. But, it was a fun experience down there, and I think definitely helped me moving forward for sure. So.
All right. Did you have a chance to meet with the Dolphins at the Combine? If so, how was it like meeting with them and some of the different coaches?
Yeah, I met with them informally. So, was a good experience. All those kind of informal meetings sort of follow the same script, I would say, have you talk about yourself a little bit and then teach you a play or defensive fronts or some sort of install and just kind of have you regurgitate it. So, I think it went well all around for sure.
Us as fans, we hear a lot about the interviews that go on at the Combine. Easy question. Was there any ridiculous question that was asked to you? You don't have to tell us the team.
Yeah, don't tell us the team.
Maybe you could tip us off for the division, but yeah.
Yeah, not really. And you always hear all the ghost stories of people getting asked some weird stuff and them trying to throw you off your game a little bit. But, to be honest, didn't really get anything out of the ordinary. Was pretty vanilla, I would say. So.
Nice. You escaped.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I got to admit, right, I watched a little tape on you. And then when I said you were coming on, I dived into it. I fell in love with football at a young age with the draft. And I've watched film for probably about 20 years. And the more I watch you, the more I like. What jumped out me, physical kid, great movement skills, especially in the run game. They asked you to pull a lot. I noticed at Sac State. You were fantastic at that. I think you could play any scheme. Power gap zone or outside zone, inside zone, whatever. Good footwork, strong anchor. That's my scouting report. And I will say this, and it's not because you're on this show. Whoever takes you, is it maybe day 2, early day 3, I think are getting an NFL starter. And if I think Jackson, if you get in the right spot, you're a 10-year plus guy. And that's not just me saying that, but that's my scouting report. What I want you now is tell the fans or team that drafts you, what are they getting in Jackson Slater?
Yeah, I mean, I liked what you said for sure.
All right, All right. I'm a new agent. Is that what I'm on the team?
But yeah, I mean, I think just kind of to echo off what you said, I think just a versatile guy that gets stuff done. I think I'm typically been a guy that's been slept on from high school to college to right now. I think might not necessarily get the recognition I deserve all the time, but I wouldn't say that impacts, how hard I work and how I handle my business every day. So, I think I'm just a consistent player that's hopefully going to go in and can contribute to an organization in an O-line room and in any way I can. And, hopefully find a spot in the NFL for sure. So,
yeah, real quick question, follow up on that. Your kind of representation or your camp, are they looking day 2, early day 3? Is that kind of what you're hearing or the sense you get, or you just never know?
Yeah, I mean, you do never know. But the kind of range I've heard is like 3 to 5.
3 to 5.
So yeah, we'll see how it shakes out, but would be cool to sneak in around 3 for sure. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think you have a shot. All right, we talked about your fit and zone. Down here, Dolphin fans are watching this. They run a bunch of outside zone concepts. How do you feel you would fit with this particular team? I'm sure you're familiar with this kind of zone, that the outside zone the Dolphins run. Do you think you'd be a fit down here?
Yeah, I think, just again, I feel like I'm a versatile player. So whatever scheme I, end up running, I think I'm going to do well in. I think, with zone stuff, being, very particular on your points and footwork is huge. And I think that's something I've had experience doing at Sac State and, definitely foresee it carrying over into the NFL for sure.
So let's give Dolphin fans a bit of a hypothetical visual, if you will. What would be your ideal perfect rep? Would it be getting to the next level and hitting a block that springs to Devin Achane or Jalen Wright for a touchdown run? Or would it be just, not allowing a pass rusher to get to a quarterback and allowing a long pass? What would be your perfect rep?
Yeah, I think, they're both pretty equal for me. So it'd be, probably some sort of power outside zone where I'm getting to the second level somehow and making a big block. But again, if you got a one-on-one rep with a 3 tech and you strap him down and it's a big play, that's, I think, just as satisfying for me. So, one of those two for sure.
That works. And, growing up in your football fandom, did you follow the Dolphins? Was there any kind of rooting for them? Or can I imagine you were a Seahawks fan?
Yeah, I was, obviously from kind of the Seattle area. So I was definitely a Seahawks guy growing up. But, there's quite a few Dolphins that I'd followed throughout the years. Dan Marino, obviously. Teron Armstead, who's been there for a little bit. Richie Incognito is another guy I like to watch play. So, there's quite a few guys that have rolled through there that I've liked to follow for sure.
I think you probably have a couple of our viewers jump through the screen when you said Richie Incognito. Definitely a name that Dolphin fans miss. A style of play for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a similar? Actually, you got a similar build as Richie, right? That compact build. Do you know any players on the Dolphins roster? Have you played with any of these guys or know them just through growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I like know anyone personally or played with anybody. So no, to be honest,
Yeah,
being at Sac State, there's not a ton of guys in the
yeah.
NFL right now that I played with. So I'd say no, but I'm definitely am learning more through this process and get more familiar with guys. So, I'm sure at one point or another I will.
Right. Is there any guys like you watch tape of or film of that you want to model your game after, take tips, and you like how they play? Is there any guys, if any, in the NFL now or who've played before that you kind of want to model your game after?
Yeah, so I watched a ton of Mason McCormick film
Okay.
going into my senior season. So played at South Dakota State, and we cross over with the Missouri Valley Conference here and there. So we had a pretty good amount of South Dakota State film. And so I watched a lot of his senior year tape and tried to emulate that as best I could because, obviously he did well in the draft and had a great season last year. And then, recently – with the NFL tape I've been watching Alex Mack, was a center for the Browns for a little bit
Yep.
and was on the 49ers. Is kind of what I've been watching him. And I think just similar play style to me as well. So I've just, kind of leisurely watching, I would say, not really digging too deep into it, but just watching his footwork, how he handles each play. And I think that's another guy I like to watch play for sure. So.
Great football stuff, Jackson. And, this time of year going into the draft, it's great sports time of year. Obviously, we prefer NFL games, but going back to your multi-sport life, these days, other than football, are you watching basketball? Are you excited for spring training to get through to the regular baseball season?
Yeah, I'd say I'm more of a baseball guy. Didn't really grow up with a basketball team in Seattle because the Sonics were gone. So, my number 2 team growing up was the Mariners for sure. And maybe even number 1, I think I've followed them more closely than I did the Seahawks growing up probably. And it was a lot easier going to those games than it was a Seahawks game back when, we were winning the Super Bowl and stuff and tickets were super expensive and Mariners were not that great. So tickets weren't super expensive. So, kind of loosely been following them through spring training and, it's been fun, watching their success, over the past few years, making the playoffs and stuff. And they always have a fun roster, I feel like. And I think, it's a team that all of America can get behind, when we hopefully, make it to the World Series at some point. So.
There you go. I'm not rooting for any baseball team in particular, but I'll jump on the bandwagon for you this season. Let's go.
All right. What are your plans on draft night? What do you got planned? Your family get together, or what do you got going on?
Yeah, probably. I'm here in Sacramento right now. Kind of been working out at our facility, and I think for the most part, going to stay around here until the draft, and hopefully have all my college buddies over and my girlfriend, and hopefully my family will fly out, and I think it should be a really fun day. If it goes well. Again, you never know what can happen, but I think just getting, a group of people together that I think have really helped me through my college career and college life. And, hopefully being able to celebrate that with them for sure.
Yeah. What's a fun question? When you get that first NFL contract, what's the what do you have a first purchase in mind, or you kind of want to take it easy and save it at the beginning?
Yeah, I do. It's not like a crazy purchase, I would say. I think definitely the goal would be to save a ton of them that money for sure. But for the last, I don't know how many years I've been telling myself I'd get the Lego Millennium Falcon, the big one. It's like $1,000 or something, but it's was a Lego guy growing up and a Star Wars fan, so I think that's kind of would be my little splurge, if all goes well. So yeah,
that's awesome. And do you have without naming a team name, do you have kind of a gut feel of I think this team's really really interesting? I mean, do you have an idea of a couple of teams that you think, okay, I think I got a higher chance going here? Without giving any names out, unless you want to, but I doubt it.
To be honest, not really. I was on the phone with a financial advisor the other day, actually, and he said, I think you're going to go to a team that you haven't talked to before.
Okay.
So, I really don't know at this point. I think there's a lot of places I could fit in. So, I think it could be anywhere, to be honest. So, we'll see for sure.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I know me and Jason would like it to be here down in Miami. I think you're a perfect fit, and you got to make a deal with us. If they draft you, you come back on the show.
Okay, deal.
All right, that's
Yeah.
a deal. Even if, and you know what, even if you want to come back and you had such a great time, anyways, after you get drafted, you can come back on the show.
Okay.
But I know this, Jackson. I wish you the best success in the NFL. Hope you have a long career. I hope it's down here, but if it's not, we wish you the best. We thank you for coming on, Jackson.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thanks for taking the time.
Of course, Jackson. Best of luck to you. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the couple of days and the whole aspect of it. You deserve it. And the best of luck to you and your crew.
Thank you.
And again, guys, thank you everybody who's in the chat. We'll be back tomorrow. This is a special episode to have the interview. We'll be back tomorrow, 8 p.m. on the on season, breaking down the Dolphins' first few days of free agency. Plus, Jackson's peers and himself will break down the offensive line group. So everybody check that out tomorrow. Again, thank Jackson for Jason and myself. Thank you guys for joining in. As always, we're out, guys. Thank you.
Fins up.